Michigan State and Mississippi State face off in the 8-9 matchup in the West region. I'm going to give a scouting report for Mississippi State, including 5 things you need to know, a film breakdown, and a brief overview of the roster. If you enjoy, please like and subscribe. So here are 5 things you need to know. 1. Mississippi State is great at guarding the perimeter, and that is where a lot of their identity lies. They have the 6th best defensive three-point percentage in the country, but they also force teams to take more threes than most. Michigan State is a team that doesn't take a ton of threes, so it's going to be interesting to see how this battle works out. On the flip side, though, number 2 is that Mississippi State is not a good three-point shooting team, but they are very good on the interior. They'll utilize a ton of post-ups and cuts to get looks at the rim. They have a lot of guys that are capable of driving to the rim, but only a few guys that are really considered, I would say, good shooters on the floor. Number 3, Josh Hubbard, he is one of those shooters. He has the scoring ability and green light to go for 30 on any given night. We'll talk more about him later in this video when I go through the roster breakdown, but he's going to get up threes and jumpers pretty much no matter who the matchup is, and he will make a good chunk of them too. Number 4, on offense, Mississippi State slows it down a good bit. Oftentimes their offense will take a while to get into their motion, and even then, it doesn't always feature a ton of action. On defense, though, they want to speed it up. They don't force an insane amount of turnovers, but they do force a ton of steals, and just in general, that's kind of what they're wanting to do defensively is force you into mistakes so that way they can get some easy buckets the other way. Number 5 is this team is just streaky. Their whole season has more or less just been alternating between winning and losing streaks, even going into their conference tournament, winning 2, then they're losing, and to end the regular season, they had a 4-game losing streak. They have a couple bad losses, but they also have a couple very, very good wins on the season. All right, so let's get into some of the film breakdown then for Mississippi State. We're going to start with 2 plays on offense for them. This is going to be a horn set, so you kind of have 2 at the top of the kind of the slots right here at the top of the key, and then 2 shooters in the corners. Going to go off one screen, and that's Tolu Smith right here, who will be the guy of interest. Tennessee, a little bit of hedge, recover, and then they're going to twist it back. So all this is trying to set up is a Tolu Smith seal down here going into a post-up. And Mississippi State will run a good amount of post-ups. They'll throw it to him a lot and let him just kind of work from there, whether it be scoring or facilitating back out of it. Nothing there, though, right, from the good Tennessee defense. So now the ball's going to swing, move to this other side, and now they're going to get him more in this mid-post area instead of just a pure seal. And Tolu Smith's going to face up, and this is where I think it shows he can play with his back to the basket, like shown here, where he would have caught it and just kind of gone up, or he can face up like here. Great pump fake because he is a capable passer, and now retreat a little bit, and now it's just kind of this one-on-one high post-up type thing, and he just does a great job getting into space. He's mobile as a big, but still strong and can finish at the rim. He'll be a tough guard for Michigan State for sure. So for this play, I want to first point out, look at the shot clock. I mean, there's 16 seconds left, and they're just now getting into their action. They are fine slowing the game down, especially on the offensive end. So they're going to get into basically a weave look eventually. Ball's going to get to the top of the key, flow into Chicago action on one side, which is just kind of what their base, I would say, offense is kind of just moving the ball back and forth, setting pin downs, getting the handoffs, and then see what you can create from there. So off of this pinned off, Texas A&M is going to just switch it. Now it's going to kind of reverse to the other side into another handoff, essentially just kind of like a weave action. And now Josh Hubbard's going to have it. And so right here, again, another switch. Now you're going to see the good spacing, right? You're going to have pretty good spacing pretty much on the perimeter. Josh Bell right here is going to be posting up, or Jimmy Bell, sorry, is going to be posting up right here, kind of occupying this big a little bit. And then this is where it just purely becomes one-on-one go time for Josh Hubbard. He just has the green light. He can step back here if he wants, and he will make it if he does it. He can try to get downhill, get to a pull-up, get to a floater. In this case, he does get to the floater, especially with that big being occupied by Bell. But yeah, just kind of shows like their offense, especially when it gets late in shot clock, like it's going to go to Hubbard's hands more often than not, and he's going to try to create. So this play right here, this is where Mississippi State is now on defense right here in the maroon. Texas A&M is going to kind of fake a screen up top, flow back, and now it's just going to be more one-on-one for Wade Taylor right here. Just try to go to work, see what he can create. And what I want to highlight is just right here. So you can see they're going to show a ton of help at like the nail, which is like the free throw line area. And this is what Mississippi State wants to do. They want to just send a ton of help. They do not allow a ton of shots at the rim. They are going to live with kick out threes. And maybe some, depending on personnel or whatever, they'll close out harder or maybe provide a little bit less help. But in general, this is what they want to do. Load up in the paint, and then they'll try to fly out to the perimeter for three. And you can see that's what happens here. Wade Taylor draws in Cameron Matthews right here, who's a very, very good defender. Now, this player for Texas A&M, he isn't a great shooter. And so you're going to see Matthews kind of short close this. I assume if it's, if this is Tyson Walker or Jaden Akins or whatever for Michigan State, I would expect more of a full closeout. But the point still stands, especially if like Hogarth can kind of get into the middle here, draw in these help defenders. Kickouts 4-3 should be there if they want it, and he drilled one right there. So this defensive play I want to bring up because it is similar actions to a lot that Michigan State do run, and it's just going to be for Dalton Knecht right here. It's not quite floppy where Michigan State, they'll have, instead of a guy up here, they'll have him down here, so that way Tyson Walker or Akins or whoever can run off either side. And it's just going to be a pin down. And what I wanted to point out is it was pretty consistent, at least in this game, and a little bit of other film that I saw, is Mississippi State wants to kind of shoot this gap. And so if that's going to happen, that is going to mean that there's more of a possibility for steals, and these passes from the top have to be crisp. But at the same time, you can kind of then flare this back out, which Dalton Knecht does here. And so you can get to, if this is Tyson Walker, I assume that he's just going to pull up right here for a really deep two and live with the result. Now, Knecht he does a very good job reading the defender, right? We know that Mississippi State wants to help into the paint. They're going to rotate, send a lot of help there. So he does drop it off to kind of the roll man. And now they get stuck, and this is just where Mississippi State, they're going to hound you, and they don't force. They're good at forcing turnovers. They're not like insane, but they are very, very good at forcing live ball turnovers specifically, and that's exactly what they get here, and then to a eventual run out. Now moving on to the roster, number 3, Josh Hubbard is a 5'10 guard that will put up threes. He's 105 for 293 on the season, which is 35.8%. He's not a primary facilitator at all, but he also does a good job of not turning the ball over. This season, Hubbard's had one job and one job only: get buckets, and he is good at it. He's not going to get to the rim too much, but will pop and make from pretty much anywhere on the floor. Number 1, Tolu Smith was an all-SEC first-team player this season, and for good reason. He averaged 15.2 points and 8.4 rebounds a game, and he's a monster down low. He can post up with his back to the basket or face up and take bigs off the dribble. He's going to be very, very active on the offensive glass, and just in general, I think he's going to be a handful for these Michigan State bigs. Number 4, Cameron Matthews is a 6'7" wing that has pretty much acted as a pseudo point guard for Mississippi State recently. He isn't a shooter at all, but is one of the best drivers in the country and finishers at the rim. He's also probably just one of the best individual defenders in the SEC, making the all-defense team, and he can pretty much guard 1 through 4. I expect him to start probably on Walker in this game and then go to whoever's kind of needed throughout for the rest. Number 0, DJ Jeffries is a 6'7" wing that is more of a role player. He hasn't shot the ball great this season, but can get downhill some and finish at the rim. He's a solid defender overall as well that gives this Mississippi State team some pop, and although maybe he doesn't stand out in any one particular area, in general he doesn't have too many deficiencies and just can provide good minutes for this Mississippi State team. Number 10, Deshaun Davis is a 6'2" guard that can handle the ball and facilitate to a degree. Another solid role player on this team on offense that has some perimeter shooting, but not much on the interior. He's a very pesky defender, though, ranking 36 in the country in steal percentage, and that just goes back to what Mississippi State wants to do, which is force these live ball turnovers. Number 3, Shaquille Moore is a 6'1" guard that, out of the rotation players, probably has the most pop on offense. He can knock down threes at a good rate, but can also get downhill and to the rim. He's more of a scorer than facilitator this year, and he's another guy that can just be another pesky defender to force perimeter steals. Number 15, Jimmy Bell is a backup big at 6'10". He hasn't had a super efficient year from the field, but he's had a few games where he can really, really get going, especially when he's given the opportunity. He's not a crazy mobile big, but he's also really improved defensively and protecting the rim in general, and can do a solid job when he is in the game. And lastly, number 5, Sean Jones is a 6'5" wing that on offense has only really been efficient near the rim. He has the good size that can guard bigger wings or also smaller guards. He's just a good defender overall, and another guy that maybe doesn't bring the most offensively, but when you have guys like Josh Hubbard and Tolu Smith, all he needs to do is play solid defense, which he can and does. It's going to be an interesting matchup in this one. Michigan State has to battle on the interior, and I do think how they guard Tolu Smith is going to play a very, very big factor in this game. It's also going to be interesting to see the shot selection, as Mississippi State forces a ton of threes, and although Michigan State is good at shooting them, they generally refuse to take a lot of threes. So we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and click here to see the scouting report on the Illinois-Morehead State matchup.